You think you know her. The woman with a sharp tongue and sharper instincts. The one who could spot treasure in a pile of trash from 50 feet away. Brandi Passante became America's sweetheart on Storage Wars, turning forgotten storage units into must-watch television. But here's what they never showed you on camera. The real story. The one that'll make you see everything differently at 45 years old. Brandi Passante's net worth stands at approximately $2 million. Now, pause for a second. Let that number sink in. $2 million. For a woman who spent years on one of A&E's most popular reality shows. A show that pulled in millions of viewers every single week. You're probably thinking the same thing everyone else is thinking right now. How? How is that possible? Where did all the money go? The answer to that question is darker, messier, and more human than you could ever imagine. This isn't just a story about money. It's about betrayal. It's about survival. It's about a woman who fought her way up from absolute nothing, only to watch everything crumble in ways she never saw coming. Let's go back to the beginning. Before the cameras. Before the fame. Before any of it, Brandi was born in Harris County, Texas, on May 16, 1980. She didn't grow up in mansions or country clubs. There were no silver spoons or trust funds waiting for her. Just a regular Texas girl trying to figure out life like everyone else. She moved to Orange County, California as a young woman, chasing something better. Chasing opportunity. Chasing the California dream that so many people believe in. But Orange County wasn't kind to her at first. The cost of living was brutal. Jobs were scarce. She found herself working as a chef at a carpet cleaning company. Yeah, you read that right. A chef at a carpet cleaning company. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even close to what she'd imagined when she packed her bags and left Texas. But it was honest work. It paid the bills. And that's where everything changed. That's where she met Jared Schultz. Jared was working in the mortgage industry back then, and the two of them clicked instantly. There was chemistry. There was attraction. There was this sense that maybe, just maybe, they could build something together. Something real. They started dating, and before long, they were inseparable. Young love. The kind that feels invincible. In 1998, Brandi gave birth to their first child, a son named Cameron. 2 years later, their daughter Peyton arrived. Brandi was 20 years old when she became a mother for the first time. 20, still figuring out who she was, still trying to make ends meet. But she stepped into motherhood with everything she had. She became the anchor, the protector, the one who made sure her kids had everything they needed. Even when she and Jared had almost nothing. Jared had his own demons. In 1997, he was arrested for possession of a controlled substance. The details were murky, but the consequences were real. He ended up serving time. And when he got out, he was determined to turn his life around. He opened a thrift store called Now and Then Secondhand Store in Orange, California. It was small. It was scrappy. But it was theirs. Brandi worked alongside him. She wasn't just his girlfriend or the mother of his children. She was his business partner. His equal. Together, they ran that little store, buying items from storage unit auctions and reselling them for profit. It was hard work. Brutal work. There were days when they barely broke even. Days when they wondered if they were crazy for even trying. But they kept going. And then, in 2010, everything changed. A production company was developing a new reality show for A&E. The concept was simple, but brilliant. Follow professional buyers as they bid on abandoned storage units, never knowing what treasures or trash might be inside. They needed real people. Real buyers. People with personality. People who could carry a show. Jared and Brandi auditioned. And they got the call. Storage Wars premiered on December 1st, 2010. The show was an instant hit. Viewers couldn't get enough of the drama, the competition, the thrill of not knowing what was behind those metal doors. But more than anything, they fell in love with Brandi. She wasn't like the other buyers. She didn't grandstand or showboat. She was real, relatable. She had this no-nonsense attitude that cut through all the noise. When Gerard got too excited about a unit, Brandi was the voice of reason. When he wanted to spend money they didn't have, she pulled him back. She became known as the voice of reason on the show. The one who kept everything grounded. People loved her. Women saw themselves in her. Men respected her. She wasn't trying to be anyone other than who she was. A working mother. A business owner. A woman who knew her worth. The show exploded. Season after season, Storage Wars dominated the ratings. Brandi and Gerard became household names. They were appearing at events, signing autographs, living a life they'd never dreamed possible. The thrift store was thriving. The money was rolling in. Everything seemed perfect. But behind the scenes, cracks were starting to form. Reality television isn't what it looks like. The cameras capture drama, sure, but they also create it. Producers want conflict. They want tension. They want moments that'll make viewers gasp and hit the share button. And sometimes, that means pushing people into corners they'd never naturally go. Brandi and Gerard's relationship became a storyline. Their arguments weren't just real-life disagreements anymore. They were plot points. Entertainment. The more they fought on camera, the more viewers tuned in. And the more they fought on camera, the harder it became to separate the show from their actual lives. Gerard once said in an interview, "The show put a lot of pressure on us. We were together all the time, working together, filming together, raising kids together. There was no break, no space to breathe." Brandi felt it too, but she never complained. Not publicly. She kept showing up. Kept smiling for the cameras. Kept being the professional everyone expected her to be. But something was breaking. Something deep inside. In 2014, after appearing in the first 5 seasons and parts of season 6, Brandi and Gerard suddenly stepped away from Storage Wars. No big announcement. No explanation. They were just gone. Fans were confused, worried. What happened to the couple everyone loved? The truth was complicated. The show was taking a toll. Their relationship was suffering. They needed to focus on their family, on their business, on themselves, so they walked away. They poured everything into Now and Then, expanding it into a second location in Long Beach called Outpost. For a while, it seemed like the right decision. They were back in control of their lives. No cameras. No scripts. No drama manufactured for ratings. Just them. Just their family. Just their business. But walking away from the show meant walking away from the income it provided. And that income had been substantial. Not $2 million an episode substantial, but enough to live comfortably. Enough to plan for the future. Then came 2018. The year everything fell apart. Brandi and Gerard announced their split. After nearly 20 years together. After building a life. After 2 kids. After everything. It was over. Neither of them gave many details at first. Brandi posted on social media confirming they'd been separated for 2 years already before anyone even knew. 2 years. Think about that. 2 years of living separate lives while the world still thought they were together. 2 years of pretending everything was fine when at WASN's single quotes, T later. The truth started to come out. And it was ugly. Brandi revealed that Gerard had been unfaithful. That he'd betrayed her trust. That the man she'd built a life with had destroyed everything with his choices. She didn't just lose a partner. She lost her best friend. Her business partner. The father of her children. The person she thought she'd spend the rest of her life with. Can you imagine? Can you imagine giving someone your entire adult life, standing by them through arrests and struggles and uncertainty? Building a business together, raising children together, only to have them throw it all away. Brandi was devastated. But she's not the type to crumble. She's not the type to play victim. So she picked herself up. She dusted herself off. And she kept moving forward. In 2020, she returned to Storage Wars. Without Jarrod. It was a bold move. The show had always presented them as a unit. Brandi and Jarrod. Together, a package deal. But now she was on her own, proving she didn't need him, proving she could stand on her own 2 feet. And she did. She held her own against the other buyers. She proved she was more than just Jarrod's girlfriend. She was Brandi Passante, a force in her own right. But coming back to the show also meant coming back to Jarrod, because he was still part of the cast, still appearing in episodes, still there. And things between them had gone from bad to worse. In June 2021, the situation turned dangerous. Brandi filed for a restraining order against Jarrod after an alleged incident at a bar in Orange County. According to reports, Jarrod approached her while she was with friends. He allegedly got in her face, yelled at her, shoved her. In front of people. In public, the details are chilling. Brandi claimed he'd been harassing her for months, showing up places he knew she'd be, sending hostile messages, making her feel unsafe. She told the court she was scared, that she feared for her safety, that she needed protection. A judge granted her a temporary restraining order, requiring Jarrod to stay at least 100 yards away from her at all times. Later, the order was extended for 5 years. Let that sink in. The man she'd spent 2 decades with. The father of her children. The person she'd trusted more than anyone. Now legally required to stay away from her. Jarrod denied the allegations. He claimed she was exaggerating, that it wasn't as serious as she made it sound. But the judge saw enough evidence to grant the restraining order. And Brandi's fear was real enough that she went to court to protect herself. This is the part of the story that doesn't make headlines. The part that doesn't get talked about enough. Because behind the fame and the television show and the money is a real person. A woman who endured abuse. Who had to fight for her own safety. Who had to protect herself and her children from someone who was supposed to love them. And through all of this, she kept working, kept showing up, kept being a mother, kept being a businesswoman. Kept being Brandi. So let's talk about the money. Because that's what brought you here, isn't it? The net worth. The shocking number that doesn't seem to add up, $2 million. That's what Brandi Passante is worth today. After years on one of television's most popular reality shows. After countless appearances and endorsements and business ventures. $2 million now. Compare that to some of the other cast members. Daryl Sheets, another longtime buyer on the show, is estimated to be worth around $4 million. Barry Weiss, who left the show years ago, is reportedly worth $10 million. Dan and Laura Dotson, the auctioneers, are estimated to be worth nearly $5 million too. So why is Brandi's net worth so much lower? Where did all the money go? The answer is complicated, and painful, and important. First, reality television doesn't pay as much as people think, especially in the early seasons. When Storage Wars first started, cast members were reportedly making between $15,000 and $25,000 per episode. That sounds like a lot until you remember taxes, agent fees, and the fact that a season might only have 20 to 30 episodes. Plus, there's no guarantee of being in every episode. Second, Brandi and Jarrod were running a business. A physical storefront requires overhead, rent, utilities, employees, inventory. All of that eats into profits. And while the thrift store was successful, it wasn't making them millionaires. Third, And this is the big one. Brandi had to rebuild her life from scratch after the split. She had to establish her own financial independence, pay for legal fees related to the restraining order, support her children, start over in ways most people never have to. When you've been with someone for 20 years and suddenly you're on your own, the financial impact is massive. Assets get divided, debts get settled, everything gets complicated. And Brandi didn't have a massive savings account to fall back on. She had what she'd earned, what she was owed, and her own determination. But here's what the numbers don't show. Here's what $2 million doesn't capture. Brandi Passante is free. She's safe. She's on her own terms. She's raising her kids in a healthy environment. She's no longer trapped in a toxic relationship. She's no longer living in fear. She's no longer pretending to be someone she's not. Money is important. Of course it is. But it's not everything. And sometimes, losing money is the price you pay for gaining your life back. Today, Brandi is still working, still hustling, still finding ways to provide for her family. She makes appearances at events. She's active on social media. She's exploring new business opportunities. And most importantly, she's being a mother to Cameron and Peyton, making sure they grow up knowing their worth and their strength. She's also become an advocate for women in similar situations. Women who've been in toxic relationships. Women who've been afraid to leave because of money or fear or uncertainty. She's proof that you can survive, that you can rebuild, that you can come out the other side stronger than before. Look, Brandi's story isn't the fairy tale we wanted it to be. It's messy. It's painful. It's real. But that's what makes it matter. Because life isn't a reality show where everything gets wrapped up neatly in 42 minutes. Life is hard. Life throws curveballs. Life tests you in ways you never expected, and Brandi Passante has been tested over and over again. But she's still standing, still fighting, still proving that she's more than a television personality or a net worth number on some website. She's a survivor, a mother, a businesswoman, a human being who refused to let her circumstances define her. So the next time you see her name pop up or catch a rerun of Storage Wars, remember the real story. Remember what she's been through. Remember what she's overcome, because that's the story that matters. Not the net worth, not the drama, not the headlines. The real story is the woman who walked through fire and came out the other side ready to keep going. That's Brandi Passante. And that's why her story will always be worth telling. If you found this story as powerful as we did, let us know in the comments below what surprised you most about Brandi's journey. And don't forget to subscribe to Luminoir for more untold stories that go beyond the headlines.